The Emperor has foreseen a new threat rising against him. The Podwans Podcast.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Podwans Podcast. Here to talk about chicken jockeys. How you doing, Luke?
I'm good. I would be remiss if I didn't bring up that it is if y'all follow us on Instagram, it is our good friend Harriet's birthday today. So happy birthday to Harriet. That he is currently at Thunderbolts premiere. So that's where he's at.
There he is.
There he is.
There we go.
He's lurking.
Turn your phone on airplane mode, you degenerate.
He's a Tommy Texter, as the
my
ad show
God.
here.
He's going to get arrested by the ghost of Stan Lee. Like, don't leak the Thunderbolts with your phone on.
Damn. But no. I'm pretty good. We're getting
good.
And we're getting close to wedding day, and
that is like coming up. And your house didn't burn down. That's the other thing.
It didn't. It was very scary last week, but we made it. We made it out alive. We're here.
That's good.
So
that's good.
We're
Sauron protected you.
Yeah, it did. It was quite fantastic. But yeah.
Well, I'm glad your house didn't burn down. I'm glad your wedding is still on schedule. All that goodness. We also have not Harith, not Char. We have Nick.
Hello.
How are you, Nick?
I'm good, thank you. How are you, Chase?
I'm doing really well. Been busy with work. And then obviously this Andor release schedule is
it's causing late Tuesday nights.
Busy Tuesday night.
Honestly, in all honesty, I have loved dropping 3.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's easy to poke fun, but it's great.
It's the easy medium, to be honest. Yeah. I think it's the people that complain about not getting answers too quickly. They're satisfied, but we can still talk about 3 episodes every week and make it seem like it's lasting longer.
Yeah.
Some of the conversations haven't been too great. I mean,
I think most of the conversations have been really good this season. There's always going to be stupid bullshit, but we can get into that. But no, Nick, I'm glad you're here. You have a new prime minister, so congratulations.
I do. Yeah,
and it's not a radical
it's
one.
It's not the insane one.
No, it is not Timu Trump. So definitely happy about that.
There you go.
That's good. But Nick, you're not the only person we have today. We also have someone who, gosh, I don't even think I've been on the pod once with this person.
No, but they have been. They have been on.
They've been on the pod. They've been on the pod once, and they are a short king of all short kings, sitting at 7'9". Jedi.Connor.
Oh, how are we doing, guys? What a fantastic intro!
I really try.
It's great to be on here again.
It's good to have you. It really is.
Thank you. Nick, it's nice to meet you.
Yeah, it's nice to meet you as well, Connor.
This is gonna be a fun, interesting conversation that we're gonna have here, because in my opinion, this arc has gone in by far been the best Star Wars arc I have seen out of animation.
So intense.
This was insane. This was truly, episode 4, 5, and 6, total was just edge of the seat the entire time. We got a lot of really cool things that happened, and a lot of sad things that happened. We'll get into, but this is one of those things that you brought up the conversation around Andor, and I'm gonna be honest. The conversation that I have seen from like a number of people. So this is like, I don't have enough fingers to point at people because like, and I understand people like, this is so good. Nothing in Star Wars will live up to it. And I really disagree with this because I think that even if we look at something like Maul, Shadow Lord, Shadow Legend, whatever, Shadow Lord.
Yeah, you're good.
Or Visions, or even Mando and Grogu. Like, I'm not expecting like this intense, hard-hitting political drama out of The Mandalorian and Grogu. I am expecting like a buddy cop movie out of The Mandalorian and Grogu.
Yeah.
Like, I am expecting like a callback to like Lethal Weapon and like Beverly Hills Cop for a lot of that stuff. And I don't need this like Chernobyl, Godfather, The Wire-esque production out of everything Star Wars.
No. And I think this is the best thing. And you said this in your live yesterday that I completely agree with. I believe Star Wars is one of the only franchises that can do multiple genres and get away with it. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I love the tone of Andor because it's something that we haven't had since arguably The Empire Strikes Back, tonal wise.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Or Revenge of the Sith. I mean, those are.
I'll give you Empire.
Giving me
Empire a little more.
Empire a little bit more, but like it's very much. And this is what I love about Star Wars is that it can do multiple things. It can be a chameleon. You can literally have Obi-Wan Kenobi that is more samurai, Jedi, more into the characters that we know and love. When it's Brooke, it is Campus Fire. Anyway,
some would say it's not a good movie.
It's not a very good movie, but it's one of my favorites. Okay, leave me alone.
That's totally fine.
I don't have any taste. That's fine. I can deal with that. But it like what Andor is doing, I think, is opening a lot of people's minds to what is possible with Star Wars.
I think that Andor opens the floodgates of having really, really talented people to start working on Star Wars. People like Tony Gilroy, and then having actors being able to really express themselves. Like I was saying to Haley when we were watching this, I was like, one of the things that makes me so happy about Andor, despite all the great things, is that Forrest Whitaker is excited to do this. Yeah. Like if you would have asked me, like even before Disney bought Star Wars, would such an acclaimed and renowned and talented and just like a person who like when I think of like the echelon of like top tier acting talent, like Forrest Whitaker is always up there. Yes. Like the Forrest Whitakers, Tom Hanks, Adrian Brody's, like those levels of like professionalism.
Well, and to have Stellan Skarsgård. You can say that about Skarsgård now as well.
And like his role in Chernobyl, like just like he knocked that out of the park. And again, like the interviews with him where he's like, I really wanted to make sure I did right by this character. And I'm like, we're talking about the same franchise where like Alec Guinness was yelling at George Lucas, like, what? I am not saying these things.
Right.
Yeah, he's the only actor that has won a Academy Award for their portrayal in Star Wars. He's the only one.
Yeah, and it's cool to do that, but like I also to kind of like take that point back is like I look at Star Wars as this very broad thing, and I look at something like if we look at like medical dramas, like there's room for The Pit, there's room for House, and there's room for Scrubs. Like all of these have value, and they all have different tones, and I think that's the beauty of Star Wars is that I think that there is room for a cheesy, campy, political, like a mini series about the Trade Federation. I think there's room for that. And it doesn't need to be as serious and hard hitting and like you're crying at the end of every episode type of show. I think that's totally fine. But what we're getting is so good.
It is.
Like
it is.
I'm so happy and so like it feels so good, especially like having something like Skeleton Crew that came right before Andor, and totally different theme, totally different tones, totally different atmosphere, and having people really rally around Star Wars with Skeleton Crew and then Andor season 2. And it's kind of almost like the gauge of like, if people aren't pissed at Star Wars, like if they're not talking about Star Wars is doing really well. And yeah, like I don't know. Like I want to hear what you guys think, because we're halfway through Andor, which is also crazy.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like how are we feeling with where we're at with episode 6?
Worried.
Yeah,
Worried.
that's a really great.
Like it was like the thing that was really cool about these 3 episodes, and I'm sure we'll touch on it, is just the Legends pieces that got pulled in again.
Yes.
As part of this, so effortlessly and so seamlessly, because anyone up until this point, when you think of the Gorman Massacre, what do you think of? Tarkin landing on a bunch of people. Guess what? That's not the Gorman Massacre anymore.
Yes.
Like, what is coming next week that is going to happen that is worse than that?
Yeah, I also think it's interesting. And this is where me and Chase, I think I might have changed my mind on book 2 of Mask of Fear. I think we'll get the story of that. I think it's very, very possible we get the story of the Gorman Massacre. The first
I don't
one.
know. I don't know. It's possible.
Unless they do a 10-year time jump.
Yeah. It's the Reign of the Empire series is going to be very interesting. And I'm curious. I think it's possible. I think you're onto something, but I don't know. Like if you would have told me that a political thriller novel that takes place 1 week after Revenge of the Sith would have been like a top tier Star Wars book, I would have been like, you're fucking nuts.
Right. But
I think you might see them mention it because what if I'm doing my math right, it takes place, is it like 2 years after Revenge of the Sith based on the timing?
Yeah, because like the bellboy, like that he made it seem like he was very young when it happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it seems like it's been a while.
Yeah, so I think you might get it mentioned because they obviously are going to do a time jump in that second book, because I think they're trying to span that entire 18-year period, aren't they? Isn't that the plan? So I maybe mentioned. I don't know if they'll focus it around it though. It would feel weird to focus that around it as well as having Andor focus itself around this as well.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Connor, have you read Mask of Fear?
No, it's actually sitting on my desk right now. I haven't read it yet.
It's really, really good. It is
it makes you look at the characters in Andor specifically totally different.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna ask. Is it almost like
you will like Perrin a little bit?
And
you will respect Perrin.
You will hate him a little bit less.
You will tolerate Perrin. And we just watched, so Alanis just got caught up. So we watched episode 6 a little over an hour ago. Mm-hmm. And she's currently halfway through that book. And I'm like, when Perrin's talking to Mon about how going through all of these parties, and it's a very interesting contrast to what we'll move on from asking.
I don't want to linger on the book. There's a lot to talk about.
It definitely hit that same vibe. I had the same thought, Luke. It definitely had that same vibe from, I know what you're talking about in that book, but yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but Connor, I'm actually interested, like, because I don't think you were on any of our previous Andor discussions. So, like, I want to, like, almost check in with you. Like, how did you feel at the end of season 1 coming into this? And then your feelings after, like, arc 1 and now arc 2?
Yeah, I think I am, like, the perfect demographic for this show. I love, like, a political thriller that goes, like, we're, like, really on the ground here. And that's something that I love about Star Wars. And specifically, we were talking about books. Like, I think this almost feels like a Star Wars book where you're getting so much time with these characters and you're in their everyday lives. Like in this episode, we see Cassian and Bix go to like a grocery store. Like that's something that I feel like you would only see from like a Star Wars book. And just the time that we're spending with these characters at the end of season 1, it was really good. But this season is just like taking a notch up. And I think that's what happens when you let super talented, creative people work in Star Wars sandbox without really any restrictions per se. And I'm super excited. And this arc was probably the most intense Star Wars that I've felt in like a while.
Yes.
And there was barely any like action per se. There was a little bit, but it was all dialogue. It was all situational. And that was something that I just ate up.
Yeah, this very much felt like almost an Aldani 2.0 because I even going back to rewatch season 1 before this, like the Aldani heist is like, especially the final episode of the Aldani heist, it's so intense. Like you are just like, I will never forget the feeling of watching that for the first time. Like, when is this going to go wrong? How is this going to go wrong?
Because you know what?
Like, yeah, and it's like, are they going to get caught even before they get into the fortress? Blah blah blah. And with the weapons heist of Gorman, like it's that same thing. And then having that, and it's what they did last arc as well, going between like the wedding party, and then the Mina Rao like assault, like and just like cut, and then they repeated that same theme of going from the Gorman heist to the like the gala, basically.
Yeah, like the party, God. The Imperial Ball.
Yeah, and then you have Clea, who's got that tool and like her hand is bleeding, and I'm like, are they going to notice the blood? Or like what is going to go on? And it's just like this intense thing, like you said, not super action heavy, but just like the implications of everything going on,
exactly,
like, just weighing on your shoulders. And I think they did that really well. And I don't want to go like bit by bit, scene by scene, but like I do want to talk about Gorman. Because Haley and I were talking about this last night. Because
do we want to?
I want to talk about Gorman as a whole. Because
but there's Chase. Do you see the comment?
Yeah.
Do we wanna talk on that? I mean, all right. Here's my take. When I first
if this is talking about Bail, we can talk about this later.
Yeah, we'll talk.
I want to talk about Bail.
Yeah. No, we will talk in nauseam about that, and I have thoughts, and it will be later. Yeah. But anyway, it is what it is. But no, getting back to Gorman. Yeah, sorry.
So this was brought up with Andor season 1, and I don't want to sound like I'm complaining because I did like Gorman. I like the aesthetic of Gorman. I liked how they handled a lot of what Gorman was. But one of the complaints of season 1, especially the Aldani arc, was like the blasters they used were just straight up AK-47s. And there is an element to me of Star Wars of, that lightsaber is a camera flash, or that comm device is a Gillette razor. Like there is like an element of like, that's a really cool like improvisation of a prop, but I think there is an argument to be made of like, that's not an improv prop, that's a gun. Like that is a gun in the real world that they've brought into Star Wars. And I think Gorman had a little bit of that. And the one thing that I really had that moment for me was Cyril's office, his little thing. And I'm like, this is a Jetsons television.
No,
yes.
No,
And I like it, but there's also this like, how on the nose are we getting here with our like real world counterparts? Because I really loved especially the dialogue with Edie and Cyril in that scene, and him really hamming up, hating the ISB in this moment. But the other thing with Gorman was this like French underground resistance.
Yes. It very
that
much
is really cool.
Revolution.
Yeah, but to me, I'm like, okay, they're speaking fucking French.
Yeah. It's like French and German, right? Is that what they said it was? Like a combination
Yeah.
of the two?
Yeah.
And I this gets brought up on the show because of me all the time, is like The Expanse does this really well with the belt. No. The Belters have a language that is like a mixture of like Creole and French and Jamaican. That like they had a linguist come in and develop this language for the Belters that like was adapted from the books and brought its own like audible flair to it that you'll never get from text. And that's really cool. And I like this, but I also liked how like on Ryloth, they have a French accent, but they have their own language.
Yes.
And the one thing about the Gormans is I love the accent. The like, it's essentially French is what they're speaking. It took me a little bit out of it. I like the homage to the French resistance. Like I love the idea that they have these underground tunnels that they're smuggling things like into the sewers the way that the French resistance did. I loved that like comparison. I would have liked to have maybe seen a little bit more differential creativity in the language that they used, because it everything in Gorman was so good that I'm just like, I am nitpicking this at this point.
Right. Yeah.
I
think even one of the memorial was even looked like almost like a guillotine for that,
Mm-hmm.
like what a guillotine setup would look like. So they really like nailed it on the head with like the French comparisons.
Yeah. Because like I like the way they dressed was like a good. I felt like the way that they had the fashion of Gorman, because obviously this is a huge textile trade route, and even like Edie saying, "Oh, Uncle Harlow's never gonna buy Gorman again." Just like I love that. Like I know so many people that are like that. Like, ooh, like I don't like how my favorite designer is doing. We're never buying this again. Like I love these moments with Edie. But no, like there was so many of these things in Gorman, like the architecture they used, and like just how everything was like. The bar that Cassian meets I can't remember her name, and I can't remember the guy's name. The guys who runs this textile company and his daughter when they meet.
Ryzen.
That sounds right.
I think.
But the way they had all of the architecture on Gorman, and how there was even a moment like Cyril's office and how it almost mimics a Star Destroyer. I don't know if you noticed that.
Where they're below him.
Yeah, well, he has this thing where he wants to make the employees feel like that he's on their side, and he doesn't like the ISB, but he's in this glass office, like the same way that a Star Destroyer bridge is, and they're in these little pits below with the walkway in the center. And I was like, this is really cool. This like false power dynamic that he's giving everyone. And how they kind of have like the homage to the Star Destroyer layout and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's been really cool. Like the Imperial design aesthetic has been consistent. Like whether you are in space, in the ISB, in the Bureau of Standards, it's very consistent. Your betters are above you. They smack you in the face with it. And it's something that I've really loved with Star Wars in general, and especially with the show, is how well they have made each of the environments they've been in, whether it's been in Coruscant or Ferrix or now with Gorman, how visually distinct they are.
Yes.
Like they are their own, and that's really cool, neat, subtle touch that I've really enjoyed through this series so far.
So here's something that I noticed on the second watch with Alanis. Did you guys notice? I'm sure you guys did, because Alanis looked at me and said, "Yeah, you moron. How did you miss this?" So when we get that shot of like whenever we're seeing the monument, right? The building behind that, I think, is the same type of station that is in Star Wars Rebels on Lothal.
I'd have to go back and see. I didn't know. Imperial architecture has it's very based in brutalist architecture. And so when they're building this and you have these big gray concrete slabs, like, yes, they're all going to look very similar. She's probably right. It probably is a similar structure.
Do you mean like the globe type structure?
Yes.
So I always took that to be Gorman architecture of the square more so than Imperial architecture. That was kind of how I saw it. It was like one side of the square as opposed to being part of the Imperial complex. But there is definitely a visual similarity.
Yeah, the thing that you were kind of touching on with the distinction of everything, and this like has carried over between arcs as well, is the color palettes of each of these worlds. Like Gorman is a very brown and green, with a little bit of like a minted, like faded mint blue on some things, and then Coruscant always like it would almost be incredible if they shot Coruscant in black and white, because of the Imperial reign of Coruscant, because even Bix and Cassian's apartment has these like overtones of like grays with like a small hint of like this deep blue that they're always in. But then when we get into Mina Rao, for example, was this like orange brown thing, like these natural earth tones and stuff like that. Yeah, like even here, like just the tint of that.
So the reason why the only reason why I was thinking of that it could be because of the sphere shape at the top. Because if you look at it, so here's Gorman, and then hold on, let me switch the screen to Lothal. Hold on here. It's similar.
It's
similar. Very, very similar.
I think that this is
not exact.
This feels almost like an inner to mid rim consistent architecture, because like if we look at the Senate Rotunda, it follows the same design philosophy.
Yes. No, yeah, it does.
So like I think we get a lot of that, and we see some buildings like this on Corelli and stuff like that, but Corelli is a little bit more cubic in a lot of their designs. I would love to like find an architect. I know that there's a guy that does like reviews like Star Citizenships that has also talked about Andor before, and I might shoot an email to him, see if he would want to talk, because he is an architect that lives in Taiwan and like talks about this stuff ad nauseum, and it's really great. But no, like the way that they're handling the color grading for all these areas is so good, just to like convey where you are, what the environment is like, how things are.
One of the things that I remember specifically about like the colors in one of the episodes, Bix is like waking up with, I don't even know if this was like last arc, I have to remember, they all kind of blend together, but she's waking up like on drugs basically, and she's looking at this talk show of Coruscant. Like that was talk show, and
5.
And the two people that are there are in bright pink. It almost reminds me of like Hunger Games capital-esque.
Yes,
clothing.
absolutely.
That's something that like they're portraying to the rest of the galaxy. Like, hey, Coruscant's the best, this, and that. But like in reality, it's terrible to live there.
There's this like sense of, because it's called Good Morning Coruscant, and it is this Good Day America, Good Morning America, where like these morning talk shows, like if we look at Good Day America, you know, with Al Roker and stuff like that, they are not talking about tariffs. They're not talking about immigration policies. They're talking about what's going on in pop culture. You know, what is Taylor Swift up to? And this is the same thing. This is not HoloNet news. This is your fluff piece. It's so funny because I'm reading a book called Pushing Ice right now that's very good, and they have like literally CNN, like they call it a news doll, and it is essentially an AI program that like interviews people, and like they'll be trying to be like, yeah, we're going after this like rogue moon, blah blah blah. We're this group of industrial miners, and we don't know what we're doing, but this is the only way we can get to it. Wow, aren't you so excited to go on such a crazy adventure? And like, no, we're gonna die probably.
Right.
Wow, that sounds so scary. And like I'm reading this and thinking back to the Andor arc, and I'm just like, this is like, you're right. This is hyper capitalist, like. Like these fluff interviews that are just like kissing the ass of the people that it's supposed to kiss, and it's supposed to have this false sense of security, like visit Coruscant,
right.
Like, and what I do love is the contrast of like Mon's estate and the gala and Bix and Cassian's apartment, and like this very like
different vibes,
getting by apartment. Like this is like the like fresh out of like I can just imagine like the fresh out of college downtown New York apartment that you barely fit in.
It's not like Chase. It's not like 500 Republica,
right? You know, it's like, you know, if we look at somewhere like, you know, like Coruscant and New York City have a lot of comparisons. You know, same with Tokyo and stuff like that, where it's like, yes, you know, you go on TikTok, you will see someone showing this apartment with a beautiful view of Central Park, and you know it's on the 87,000th floor. Right. And then I'm like, yeah, no, I lived in a railroad apartment in Brooklyn, and like the radiator was loud as shit, and there's a dude outside screaming constantly. And I'm like, that's New York City for most people, and I love the view. And I remember I was talking to David about this on Saturday on It's Fanbox, of like the aesthetic of Cyril and Dedra's apartment, and it's perfectly clean lines, and it's very like it's influenced from like 80s, 90s to early 2000s Japanese architecture with the pod apartments and these like compartmentalized, like function over form beyond everything else. And again, seeing the different levels, like seeing the lower class Coruscant, the middle class like imperial bureaucrat apartment, and then we obviously have Mon Mothma's like elaborate senatorial estate, and just like the way they have conveyed all of these things, and how all of these still have similar design languages. Like the thought that goes into all of this stuff is insane to me.
Yeah, whoever is the production designer on this show deserves all the awards, because the detail down to the smallest thing has been immaculate. One of the
guys that played one of the Imperial officers, and I think this was for Mina Rao, I could be wrong, but they were talking about like it was the most surreal thing that they've ever worked on any set, because it was like every drawer they opened had Star Wars props in them. Like there were like pens and like a notepad that looked like it came out of Star Wars, and you know, like grain filters and stuff like that. And like, this is never going to be on camera. This is never going to be shot, but they want everything to be as immersive as possible for the actors. And so this level of detail, like it cannot, like there cannot be this is being held up by an A-frame.
Right.
And like, it's just an empty drawer. It's like, no. There is like, this is a lived-in apartment, and they've nailed that with everything.
And I feel like, and I was talking about this with New Better Do Better on his live. I because he was watching, he had watched the first arc but hadn't seen the second, and I said this show, like the setting, the props, everything gives me what they were doing with Rings of Power season 2. Everything is more practical, everything is more believable, and it's you couldn't do any of this in the volume. You couldn't. You can do so much, but what they're doing with just Gorman specifically, and it gives the actors more freedom to go off script a little bit, to act. Yeah, exactly.
The cafe they meet in, like that bar is fully stocked. Like there is a menu to that restaurant. And that is like, I know this is going to say, I don't think we have seen this since the first movie with the Mos Eisley Cantina, where like this feels like a real place.
Yeah.
Like from Empire to Jedi to the prequels to the sequels, like this is, I think, the first time that they've really nailed that, because I think like we love Dex's Diner. This is like a Dex's Diner Stan podcast, but like that is a fabricated restaurant.
Dexter's fucking diner,
right? But that felt very fabricated. That felt very, because of the way that George was shooting the prequels with all the digital effects. Like that was not a real place. The Mos Eisley Cantina is a real place. Yeah. Like the Gorman Cafe is a real place. The studio that he goes to meet with the Resistance and you know the textiles, like every textile is different. It's not a copy paste. Like he is pulling a swatch out and putting it back, and there's another completely different one above it. Yeah. And it's just like it is insane. And like honestly, how detailed it is.
You like, for me, I don't realize that stuff until I have it. You know what I mean? Like if we're watching a different show that's more volumized, like you just kind of like, oh, this is a cantina, like this is where we're at. But when and if when I'm watching Andor, it's like, oh, now I'm at the actual bar. There's stuff that you can, like you said, it's fully stocked. There's definitely a menu. Like that stuff is what, like, I didn't realize how much I wanted it until I have it.
Do you guys follow For the Lore? Because they do a prop series and they have been just basically going nuts with all of the props.
I can imagine. Yeah. One thing, talking about the fully stocked bar, the funniest thing to me was the two ISB agents at the gala, like talking about the fizziest girly pop drinks and be like, ooh, you have to try it. It's so good. And I'm like, oh, of course the ISB agents are like, you know, like Luthen is like, yeah, I need like the hardest liquor you can get. And Saw's like, I need pure Rhydonium, motherfucker. And then you have the ISB, which are like, ooh, it's fruity and it's fizzy. And I'm like, of course.
That's funny.
I like, speaking of Saw. Oh
wow! MVP of this arc, hands down.
And he got his Luthen moment and absolutely nailed it. And it's so interesting that something so speculated in Rogue One, right? Oh, that's oxygen. Absolutely not.
That's gasoline, baby.
This man said, "Fuck it, I can't get high. We're getting the hard shit now, boys." And the way he's and I feel like he is testing Will in that moment. You know what I mean? He's like, "Are you really 100%. In this? Are you really in this? Or do you prove it? Prove it."
I think you're right, and I think you're wrong on that. I think that from the moment he met Will, and remember, go back to season 1. Will was the one who threw the bomb.
Absolutely.
On Rick's Road, he threw the bomb. He was building that bomb. He is like the engineer of this small rebel cell. I think that Saul knew that the second he landed on Dakar, which also fucking Dakar. just showing up.
Did we ever? Was it ever spoken in canon that was once a rebellion before the show? I thought it was mentioned. I thought it was mentioned in the Force Awakens novelization.
I haven't read the novelization.
It was mentioned in the novelization for sure. The only base that I can think of that they mentioned being an old rebellion base was Crate in The Last Jedi.
I think that, but no, like I think it's so cool that we're getting like a little bit more sequel like respect and going back to these places that like were from the sequels. But specifically between Saw, the way I interpreted that whole interaction is that as soon as Will landed, Saw knew that dude was an Imperial spy. He already knew.
For sure.
That Will is that he ain't the only thing he's training is to waste time. And he was like, Will's joining me. Will is going to join me. Because I think the thing about the partisans is they're always a little scrappy. and that like they get what they can get and they have who they have. And I think that Saw viewed this as an opportunity of like, this is a weakness that we have that I will never let anyone know that we have, and I found a way to stop that weakness. And so he had that whole thing planned out from the moment that Will landed with the Rhydonium.
Go ahead, Nick.
I also think too that, to me, he saw a shared tragedy in Will that he himself had. Right, he lost his sister to this cause. Will lost his dad to this cause. That has to be a type of pain that you can identify in someone else. So I think that he knew. I agree with you. Like, I think he had Will pegged from the second that he landed, but I think he also saw the right avenue to take to make his message the most effective.
Well, it's interesting because it's like, we know Saw from Clone Wars, but the things he was talking about was that must have happened like early on in the Clone Wars, because like our first introduction into Saw is like he's already invested. Like him and Stella are beginning the Andoranian resistance, and the way he talks about that, it I think it will start to open up a lot of people's eyes to not judge Saw on certain situations that really aren't his fault. You know what I mean?
Hold on. You're talking about Star Wars fans starting to be rational? How dare you?
Nah, yeah, that's impossible.
I will say, as someone who like loves Knights of the Old Republic too, just hearing the word Onderon said in live action, crazy.
That's wild.
Crazy. Like, obviously we see it in the Clone Wars and they go back to it, you know, in multiple instances. It's been in books, it's been in comics. Oh, yeah. They said Onderon in live action, and I'm just like, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I agree with Brooke's comment. His speech was perfect, but it was fully 100% manipulation.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah. Like, here, get high while I whisper these scream these words into your ears. Like,
it's so closely to Palpatine, in a way, in a manipulation of the other coin. And Connor, I think you were about to say the same, like something similar.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about like Palpatine, and like you said Palpatine, right?
Yeah. Palpatine, I look at manipulation.
I kind of see the same thing with like Luthen and Cassian, almost, where we're seeing these like basically people like taking others in and making them almost like their successor, where I think Saul might see Will as his successor and Luthen sees Cassian as his, and they're trying to train them in their ways so that, I mean, Saul Guerrero says this in his speech. He's like, we will all die before the rebellion or the Republic comes back. So just trying to plant that seed into everyone's head and training them. And I mean, we have that speech with Luthen and Cassian where he says you have to start thinking like a leader as opposed to almost like boots on ground kind of thing, where I think that is a big theme throughout this arc, is like trying to get people to follow in their steps and almost teach them.
Yeah.
I like the thing I loved about Saw's speech and like, you know, just that he's like, am I crazy? Like, I have to be. Like, it doesn't work if I'm sane. Like, and I love that there's recognition of like, he's like, no one else but me can do this because of how far I've fallen away from like what he was trying to achieve on Onderon. It's so far past that. And like, he's lost so much of himself. And yes, he's huffing Rhydonium, baby. And it is so good. But the thing is that I loved about his speech, and I loved about Will, is that Will takes the mask off on his own volition.
Yes.
Is that he's not trying to question Saul. He's not trying to do that. He takes the mask off, and then you have this beautiful moment in the rain where he's just on his knees screaming into the air and just like taking everything in, because he is fully invested in this, but I don't think he has like fully absorbed himself in this. And this is the moment where all of the rebellion and all of the tyranny that him and his friends and his family and his love interest that he had to leave behind, like it's finally absorbing into him that this is why he's doing it, and that being passive and trying to do this is not going to get anywhere, and it's all hitting him all at once. And it is a beautiful scene. Like it's crazy, like, and there's like all this energy, but it's just like everything that's happening with Will in that moment is so good. And I think there's a really interesting parallel between how Will is finding himself within the rebellion, and then how Bix and Cassian are finding themselves on Coruscant. And then also at the same time, you have Vel and Cinta and how they're feeling with the rebellion, and the conversation they have, multiple conversations they have, and like we can get into that later. But like I do want to talk about. I mean, the show is called Andor. We should talk about Cassian. Yeah. But we had talked about it a little bit, but these moments that they're getting of like them going shopping, I think are so important and so vital to their characters. And like, yes, they're falling in love, and I'm very worried because she's in love with Cassian.
Yeah.
And she's not around later on.
And he's a pretty cold person to start Rogue One.
And here's the thing, in this, talking about Val, and I made this connection again, and I felt like Alanis looked at me and went, after the episode when I told her this, she's like, of course. Yeah, that makes sense. Like, why are you just now coming to it? She's always like 8 steps ahead of me when it comes to this type of stuff.
Get used to that. Like, that's married life.
It is what it is. I've already given up. I think Val's gonna be a casualty in the massacre.
Val?
I think that's going to push Mon even more. I think that's the straw that breaks the camel's back. Yes, in Rebels, we know that she gives that passionate speech. Yes, she is the type of person to stand up to an outrage to a situation like this. But it's gonna be something that causes her to do this out loud, and I think it's gonna be because Val is a casualty at this point. And I think Val at this point,
anyone can go.
Anyone who's not in Rogue One is in my list.
Exactly. But it makes so much sense because in this arc, Mon says to Luthen, "Have you heard from Val?" He's like, "Yeah." Why? And she's like, "Because I care about her." And it's giving off, hey, here's your reason to be more upset with the Emperor. Losing a family member usually, I mean, look at Saw Gerrera, for example. After a family member died, he went, screw it. I am all in on my cause. And it wouldn't surprise me if that was the fact. But Brooke does make a good point, and I did forget that in that trailer she might be on Yavin.
She's somewhere.
But who knows? Who knows?
Yeah, we don't know who's gonna make it out. Who's gonna like? I think that the other thing is that we are starting to see that the rebellion is growing, and that it's getting bigger and bigger. And what I think is interesting about like the first arc is this like the ragtag group on Yavin.
Yeah,
it's so funny.
They are
but,
a
like,
shit show. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's like these are also rebels, and so like there are so many aspects to this. And I think even when we look into the original trilogy of just like something like from a certain point of view of like we have the story of the guy that brushed past Han and Leia, is that the rebellion is not Luke, Han, and Leia, and we've known that, but we're seeing more and more of it as we've gone on. So like, well, yes, it's pretty easy to be doom and gloom about who's going to make it out. Like there is a chance that some of these characters, like Bix and Vel, could make it out, and they could go on to do other things in the rebellion.
Bix isn't making it. That's
I don't think she is, and I'm so sad about that.
Especially for what that character. I hope she does.
I want her to. I want her to defy the trope that that like you could go down that path of like, oh yeah, she loves Cassian and Cassian isn't with her in future media. Like, we can subvert that trope. I think it is possible. I think that the writers clearly have shown they're talented enough to do something like that.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly. Well, and also on that point though, Chase, I think it's even more compelling if she is around, but she's not, like, she's sent, like, and here's the other thing. Who's to say that Luthen's not around? Maybe she sticks with Luthen. Luthen is going to be the source of what's happening on Coruscant, because you're always going to need spies everywhere when you're dealing with the Empire. You're going to need to combat that.
The thing about Luthen is, between these two arcs, everyone is losing faith in Luthen.
Absolutely.
Everyone. Mon has lost faith in Luthen completely. Cassian and Bix are at their wits' end with Luthen because of how he's operating behind their backs. Vel is fed up with Luthen and is
Saul
now
even
fed up
Clea.
with Luthen.
Even Clea.
Saul's fed up with everyone. It's not high on him.
You see him start to crack in that conversation with Clea when he has to find out.
And
Clay is tired of him.
Yeah, like this was the thing that I took away is like you're starting to see him be sloppy, be the very thing that he doesn't want to be. Like seemingly forcing the meeting with Lonnie to get more information out of him as to what's going on with Dedra. You know, trying to keep track of all of these webs that he's got out. Like, we're starting to see this composed guy that we saw in season 1 crack.
I like that you brought that up, because there's the scene with Clea and Luthen when they're talking about the listening device, and the way that scene is shot, and she comes up to him, and there is clearly a height difference there, and like there's a power dynamic there, and he has always held the power over Clea, and that one moment when she just comes right up to his chin and is just like screaming at him, and like she is at that point is now holding the power in this, and it's like, this is what you wanted and these are the consequences, and we have to do whatever we have to do. And that, like, basically saying, don't you tell me about the consequences that you said we had to go through.
I fucking love that. I love that. These two freaks deserve each other, and if they die on the Death Star, god damn it.
Can we like
turn the lights out?
I was gonna say,
did
anyone else watch that and immediately think Dedra's just gonna make him give her a massage and then leave? Like, he's not getting anything.
No. I think the opposite. She is definitely dumbing him down. Definitely.
Yeah. I think Brooke said it earlier in the comments.
Yeah.
I love their relationship so much.
It's so weird, but it's so, like, I get it.
It makes sense. It makes sense, but it's so
I
weird.
agree.
Yeah. So there's something that I pointed out on It's Fanbox last week, because there's this really amazing framing shot that we get when we compare season 1 to season 2, and it's so interesting because we go back to it in this arc. When we look at Edie's apartment with the rounded square platform of the dining table, and you have Cyril in season 1 framed inside of this box. He's in this box with his mother's apartment, and he's slouching and he's eating his blue milk cereal. And then it's beautiful. Fast forward season 2, we have the same framing in his new apartment with Dedra, and it's this huge open, again, rounded rectangle gateway that you get to see him go in and out of, and he has this freedom to walk around. And then I think it's episode 5 or 6 when he's back on Coruscant and he's eating dinner and he's eating the same thing, but his posture has changed. He's sitting upright, and he is no longer allowing that box he's in to contain him. It is, oh my God, like, watching that, I'm just like, if this show doesn't win 100 fucking awards.
And even the conversation with his mother, even though it's like for the rebels to hear him, he is still going in on her, basically putting her in her place. Like, And he also is basically like, hey, stop watching like Fox News. Like,
Yes.
let's stop that. But you can tell he's gaining more confidence. And even if it's a little bit for show, like that, he still feels that confidence. And whether that comes from Dedra or his own,
I think it is because of Dedra. I think Dedra giving him it. But that's why he is such a dog. That's why he is like so eager to get back to her. Because also think about when he gets back access to get his notes. He goes into that meeting.
Yeah.
And talking about the shot, Chase, she's on that small screen, but she's looking down. And it's a, hey, I am like, if you look at it, it's like, hey, you are below me, bro. Like, this is
okay. Hot take. I think Dedra actually loves Cyril. I think she loves him. I don't think she knows that she loves him. I think she has never felt love because we hear at in the dinner with Edie, right? She was like, I was raised in the kinder block. Yeah. Like she's never had like the love of a parent. Her parents were dead. She's never had a relationship. She was basically raised in the Empire. She does not know what love is.
Oh yeah.
And she is with Cyril, and there's something she would not fake this, like in arc 1 when she fakes this, when she puts on the smile when she's doing the black outfit, and it's like, oh my god, adorable, beautiful, love it. But like, this is not something she would have done in season 1. This is not Dedra Meero from season 1 who like only knows about regiment, and she is willing to make these concessions. And when he comes back to Coruscant from Gorman, and she says, we have 1 hour. Like she is telling him, you have 1 hour to get out of here, but make whatever you have to say brief, and as brief as possible, because I do need to be with you. And that's why she says, turn out the lights twice to him. And then obviously they turn out the lights and they have the most robotic sex you could possibly imagine.
But this is also true. She loves him because she can control him.
I think that is right. I think that she does, but I think the possibilities of where this will go, because this is not ending well for either of them.
Oh no, absolutely
because
not.
she is using him for Gorman, and he is using her for furtherment within the Empire. They are using each other, and the thing is, she has never felt kindness or care in her life, and he is trying to give that to her because he almost worships her in a way. And he is also, this is his, everyone has their own rebellion. This is his rebellion against Edie, is that he can stand up on his own, and that he can have someone that like is respected. And I think that they do not know what love is, in the way that Bix and Cassian have it, in the way that this is very Mask of Fear, but the way that Bale and Brea have.
Yes. Absolutely.
And the way that when we go back to the wedding, the way that Mon looks at Perrin when Perrin's delivering the speech about love and to his daughter, and like, we have all of these different phases of love in this, of like, everyone feels these different things, because like everyone who has these feelings is feeling them in a different way, from Will to, I can't remember her name, to Brasso and Talia, to Cassian and Bix, to Dedra and Cyril. Like, everyone is learning about love and emotion in these radically different ways. And I think it's so interesting. And I think that with Cyril and Dedra, I think that there's a possibility that Gorman is going to go too far, and it's going to ruin Cyril, and it's going to upset her and disturb her. And I think that on the other hand, if she doesn't do that, and she does just use him the way that Partagaz and Krennic want her to use him, that will spark his personal rebellion and realize that all of this is wrong. And because he says, this is the best day of my life when Partagaz says good job, sport.
So my thing is and I'm sorry for the boo-boos that want Cyril Karn to get a redemption arc. This motherfucker is going down with a goddamn ship, and I have never been more happy for it. I'm honest.
I'm planting my flag now. He's gone next arc. If we get the Gorman Massacre next arc, he's gone. Because I think
Cassian will be the reason for it. I think Cassian will be the one that does it. To be honest, I just don't see. We see enough of redemption. I get it. I understand. But
sure,
but not everybody needs to be saved.
But I think
a bad guy be a bad guy.
I mean, also, like to me, what is he getting redeemed from? He was shit at his job in the first arc of season 1, which is why Cassian and Luthen were able to get away.
Here's what I think is, if we get a defection story from Cyril, I don't think he lives through the defection.
Yeah. Hell no.
I think he will try and leave the Empire, and maybe he gets caught by Saw, maybe he gets caught by Luthen or Cassian, and I don't think they let him live through that. Not that he's like if we look at it on the grand scheme of things, like we look at what's going on with Gorman, we look at what Krennic is doing, we look at what Darth Vader does, like he is the smallest cog you could possibly imagine, and he's trying to become a bigger cog, but like he's not the one. He doesn't even realize what's going on in Gorman, like from behind the scenes, like. And I think Brooke had said it earlier, and I may be wrong, but like, I 100% see Dedra Meero because of her involvement with Krennic. She is ending up on the Death Star.
Oh yeah,
she will be there.
Yeah.
She will be there. Like I think that will. Like I have 99% confidence that that's where she'll end up. She will be on the Death Star by the end of the show.
One of the
Cyril is so complicated, though.
I was gonna say one of the things about Cyril is that he is like he's part of the Empire. Like they're doing terrible things, but he looks out for individuals. Like like the reason he started the whole like trying to find this thing is because someone at his work was killed, and he looks out for his own workers. He wants the best for them. So like
it wasn't for the glory of the Empire,
right? Right. He doesn't have this like evil thing about him. Like he thinks that he's doing the right thing, I think, but like he is planting seeds, especially like having connections with these Gormans, going to these meetings. Like he sees them as people now. So if there's something that triggers him to doubt the Empire, like I could see him taking that step. Like you said, I don't think that he's going to survive it, but I think he could have his own little rebellion. Even if it's not joining the rebellion, it's rebelling against the Empire himself.
If the Empire takes a step if he starts to realize what is really going on with the Empire, I think it will disturb him. Because here's the thing, I think he when he's talking to Edie about her like stop watching Fox News, Mom. Yeah. I think he genuinely feels that. Right. He's like, I think he sees like, look, they say all types of things to get people, riled up. Like, I think that he has some truth to that.
And we still got a couple years left. Like there's a lot that could happen in between. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So this is my thing. Like I can see that. I can. But like he acts like he cares, but he's got that taste of power now. He wants to move up. That's his thing. He's like, just like Chase said, like when Patagras said, good job. Like, and the way that he on the comm, like literally looked like he came in his pants when he saw that whole thing go down on Gorman. Like literally, that's what he gets off.
I think it's more getting approval as opposed to power. Yeah. I think he just wants people to like him and to belong, as opposed to like, hey, I'm going to exert this power over you because I think I'm better than you. I think he just kind of wants to belong somewhere.
He reminds me of, and it sounds sad, but it will make sense, like an abused puppy. Like he is happy
literally it
for
is.
any sort of positive.
He wants to prove his mother wrong. He wants like the when he says to Partagaz, or I'm sorry, when he says to Dedra after Partagaz leaves, where he says, "This is the happy." Is it weird if I say this is the happiest day of my life?
The scowl on her face was just like I didn't think that could go down any lower.
It's like losing your virginity to me wasn't the happiest day of your life. He feels that way because he views someone like Partagaz and someone like Dedra Miro, someone like Director Krennic, as the people who are above his mother, because his mother has this high feeling, and it's like not only above his mother but above his Uncle Harlow. And that someone that is better, he does have this like very much there are lesser thans and better thans. There are and someone who he truly believes is better than his mother, better than his Uncle Harlow, said that, like I said, proud of you, champ. Like
good job, kid.
It's like I never had a dad tell me I was proud, and then all of a sudden the fucking SS science officer it's like good work, mine boy.
No, but like I see where X-Core is getting this though. It's not just proving his mother wrong. It's showing that he's not a failure, because she brings that up multiple times. Like when she's talking to him about his Gorman spot, she says, "You don't realize you're being pushed. You're being put aside."
It's a demotion.
It's a demotion, but it's so much more than that, and I think that's what makes Cyril. That's why people are like, they gravitate towards him, because it's like they can relate.
Yeah,
but I think it's both. I think it is proving his mother wrong by showing that he's not a failure, right? Like and I think the two they're not mutually exclusive. To him, proving his mother wrong is proving he's not a failure.
Cyril is very much an onion. There are layers to him.
Yeah.
Like
Shrek.
And no, it's true. It's true. But here's the thing, and this is what I love about this show, is that none of these characters are one-dimensional.
No.
It is when you look at Dedra, you look at Cyril, you look at Bix and Cassian, you look at Luthen and Saw and Will and Mon and Perrin, everyone. There are multiple, everyone. There
Cinta?
are multiple aspects to this. Cinta's a great example. Cinta is a person that is a great segue to the fucking heartbreak of the episode.
Oh Jesus! Let's talk about the end.
Cinta is a character that is very. The dedication to the rebellion of Cinta is like unrivaled, I think, for a lot of people. Like, absolutely. She is willing to throw away something that she yearns for so badly, and that being Vel. Because like we see this even in Aldhani, of like I don't care how much like I love you, you need to call the fucking thing in. You need to get this mission done. Stop worrying about me. Stop worrying about all this bullshit. We are so insignificant comparatively to the cause. And she strongly believes that. But that does not mean she does not love Vel, and she doesn't miss Vel, and she doesn't care about her. And this the moment when we see her driving away in episode 3, looking Vel in the eyes, and then driving away. It's, oh my God, heartbreaking. And then when they meet again on Gorman, and they have this very serious talk, and it is this talk of like,
what the fuck have you been up to?
Yeah, and she's like, and she's very serious about it, because she's very like her true commitment is to the cause, to the rebellion, and when they finally when the plan is being set in action, they go and they're kind of in that little like barracks bunker hideout thing, and they have like the most beautiful moment, like the most, in my opinion, the most genuine and passionate and like true moment of like, these characters love each other. And how we have this like progression of, like you said, vulnerability, opening up to each other and being honest with each other, and then the escalation of how that scene plays out, from like talking to getting closer and shifting body language to like touching to kissing to like slamming faces together, like the way it progresses, and you see like, because like I think all of us went and saw Revenge of the Sith like in theaters again and again. Like, it's a fun movie, it's a good movie. That is not there with Anakin and Padme.
No. Absolutely
it's not there with Han and Leia. It's not there with Han and Kira. It's not there with any other character. And holy shit, like watching it, and obviously I'm like, wow, like Disney's fucking, they're going for it.
Yeah.
And I loved that scene, and the heist.
Yeah.
And this, one of the things that I did appreciate about this was it did show us the danger. And because it was this quick scuffle between two Gormans who were essentially mostly on the same side. Like you see him in like episode 4 or 5 kind of like arguing and like, we need to do something. We can't let the Empire do this. What the fuck are you doing? And the blaster goes off. And like this is a very like, I don't know if you remember, there's a scene in Band of Brothers where like they're playing with the German pistol, and the gun goes off and it kills the guy. And I think it's one of those things of like, we get so inundated and wrapped up with these epic moments of like going down in a blaze of glory, and like, oh, the X-Wing exploded. Oh wow, the lightsaber went through this was an accident. Like, this was an accident.
And one of the things.
No, go ahead, Connor.
I was gonna say, one of the things that specifically with this season and death is that we haven't seen a character die on screen yet. Like, Brasso died off screen. No words, no final, like no last moments, no inspiring speeches. And the same thing happens here. Like, it is so real because that is what actually happens. It's an accident. You're not fast enough to get Brasso. Like, and they're gone. Like, there's no more moments with them. It's just,
it's real.
It's real. And that's something that I really appreciate with the show that they're doing.
There's not to I don't want to derail this conversation, but like spoilers for The Last of Us Part 2. I have not seen this show, but I have contentious opinions about like Last of Us and stuff like that. But there is a character that has a death on screen, and it is like that. Like, the character is shot, and that is it. I don't want to spoil it for anyone who's like been watching the show and stuff like that. Yeah. But there is a character that like their death is not. It's not a scene.
Right.
It is a moment.
Yeah.
And there is almost a harder impact when stuff like this happens versus like,
absolutely.
as much as I love like the scene in Rogue One with Chirrut and Baze, because it is the blaze of glory, and it is this like epic moment, and it's like a tearjerker, but there's something to be said of like the blaster goes off, and like when it went off, and I'm like, if it's Sita, I'm gonna blow my brains out. If it's Sita, I'm gonna blow. Oh my god! But go ahead.
I was just thinking about like Connor, what you said, and I'm trying to think: has any main character in this show who has died had their death shown on screen? And I don't think they have, because Marva's wasn't.
Right.
Hers was off screen.
Well, it's so to go back to Chase's point of the watching characters die on screen, like Qui-Gon, happened to Qui-Gon.
Yeah.
He got that moment with Obi-Wan towards the end, and you're right, it is more impactful when you have that scene with Senta and Vel, and then
we feel what they feel.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
I think the craziest thing, the thing that like Andor has continued to do and like surprise us like with its themes and mature content and context, and I think a lot of people like maybe didn't put a lot of focus on this. Vel's monologue at the end of that.
Oh, yeah.
Don't you like? And this was like, and like, not that I care that much about language. This would have been the one moment I would have loved to see like the F word
Yeah.
get put into
Yes.
Star Wars. Like, don't you fucking cry.
Fucking cry. Yeah.
Like and she delivered that so well because she's holding back tears the entire time.
Yeah.
And like you can see her eyes swelling, and oh my God, like that monologue.
She is
that
what you
she did-
daydream to be.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, it's like, dude,
I mean, that
you are so insignificant that you don't even compare to this person that you just accidentally made. In the moment I knew that this was going to go so wrong, so wrong, is when they're sitting there before this even happens, and Cinta and Vel both say, we are the only ones with blasters. And I'm like,
Yes.
oh, bullshit, you are.
Yeah.
One of you is gone. Because
But, like-
that right there with context is just, it's so heartbreaking because they told this guy, follow orders, don't go off script. And what does he do? He goes off script. And it's exactly what Cassian tries to tell Luthen. They are not
weren't ready.
prepared.
They're
They
not
aren't ready. They are so behind the ball, and they're trying to rush, and this is what happens.
Yeah.
This is
I
what
think-
happens when you're
But
not
both of them
organized.
can be right. Both of them can be right too, because I think Luthen is also right that they have to do something. But Cassian's
Absolutely.
also right that they're not prepared. So it's
But do you-
like it's tough. It's a tough situation.
Do you think the Luthen of season 1 would have pushed this? Because I don't. I think he would have
so.
let it. I think he would have let it burn a little bit longer.
I just
like-
because he also says because Cassian in that conversation is like, what happens if this goes wrong? He says it will burn bright, which I think is a move that season 1 Luthen would still approve of to get attention.
I mean, look
for
at the
their thing.
monologue.
But they are later. They're getting closer now, which is to your point, Nick. They're starting to crack. Like he's starting to crack. So that's also a really good point to make.
Yeah. The whole incident on Gorman and the worst thing is when you have Cyril watching from like the distance in the shadows.
God damn it. Yeah.
And you realize like that, they are playing the same thing that you had in season 1 with Anton Krieger and Anton Krieger, whatever his name was, like
Anto Krieger.
and they're playing into the same hand of the Empire.
Yeah.
And the thing is, and like I kind of want to switch this over to Coruscant and maybe like start wrapping it up a little bit. Is obviously the monologue from Vel is just heartbreaking and moving and everything you're expecting, and they have been delivering the monologues this season that
Absolutely.
from Perrin to Saw to Vel. And I love that, what Luthen does say about it is like, it will burn very brightly. As in like, it will be impossible for the galaxy to ignore. And I think you're right. I think season 1 Luthen wouldn't do this, but season 2 is getting more desperate. And I also think that season 1 Luthen wouldn't allow so many rebel people in the same room as director Krennic.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, so Josh Mason Windu had a tweet, and he's like, this is exactly why Tarkin does not fuck with Krennic, because Krennic is unhinged. He does not care. He speaks out loud. He doesn't care who's around because he thinks that he's the biggest swinging dick in the room, and
He has to
clearly
be
see
right.
that. Yeah, he has to be right.
It is our diva.
The way he's talking about, so like, we're not even touching. I say we end with Bail, because that's going to go into what we're eventually going to see in the later in this next throughout the rest of the show. He's going to be more prevalent. We'll talk about that in a bit. But
Gold spiders aren't the most interesting thing about Corbin.
And also the
He's
back,
so good.
the back and forth between him and Mon. Mon's like, oh, it's so nice to not see you on the stand, and it just. Like the inner
needles.
jabs that they do, the dueling that they have. It's so well written. It's so well acted. Like Genevieve O'Reilly and Ben Mendelsohn was just so good.
I felt like
Go ahead.
I felt like it was in a high school history class, politics class, where one person gets up, the other person who has the opposite ideals, and then they just go. Like you're gonna sit there with your popcorn, listen, and just enjoy these jabs.
Yeah.
The best thing about this is like, I love the insight of this because the moment that like Mon Mothma hears about what happens on Scarif and that Krennic dies, she just posts like a selfie on the holonet, like absolutely glowing today.
No, Chase, and it's the Lizzo song, "Feeling Good as Hell."
Like she is like this is my day. This is a good day. I'm not even gonna say that bitch's name. Like.
And I mean, the crazy thing is that is an intense, tense-filled standoff. And in the meantime, you've got Clea 50 feet away, trying to remove. Like,
can we just talk about how fucked Lonnie is in this whole thing? They put him in the worst fucking situation, and it's like this man, even when Luthen gives his monologue to him in season 1, he's like, what am I doing?
I did not sign up for this. Like,
this is
the bewildered stance is just his face, though. I think he just constantly looks like that.
That's fair. That's totally fair.
I love that Clea has kind of moved away, and you know she's always been so professional and so like on top of everything from season 1 and season 2. But the like I brought up with her interaction with Luthen, like her having this insane power in like everything she does and everything she says, and the way, you know, just, you know, move to the left.
Yeah.
You need to move to the left.
Even his initial reaction with even her initial reaction with Lonnie is like, just follow me and everything will be fine. You have to say it out. You have to do what I say, though. And
it is this moment of like, because these characters, like, we don't know what the fates of these characters are. They're like the tension of, you know, Krennic and his fucking ISB brigade, like monument to or artifact to artifact, like inching closer to Clea, and she is keeping her composure the entire time, bleeding out on the floor, and Lonnie's like, "Oh God, I'm pooping my pants."
Lonnie wishes he wore the brown pants that day.
Yeah.
And she does not. It does not faze her, and she has a line like, "What would happen if they didn't?" It's like, I would have dealt with it however I needed to deal with it. Like, there's no question in her. There's no like, yes, she wants to get this done, and she's incredible. Like, she is very quickly becoming one of my favorite characters in this show.
Absolutely. I hope she survives everything. But
there are like, you mentioned Bail, and I feel like we should talk about Bail. It's not the last thing I want to talk about, but it is the second to last thing I want to talk about, because the final scene of this arc is the greatest.
It's hilarious. Yes. I love it. Yes.
How do we feel about Bail?
Here's my thing, right? I heard about the recasting like a month ago, and I speculated that it was either going to be Tarkin or Leia, and I was completely wrong. I didn't think it was going to be Bail, because if you remember, for season 1, there were rumors that he had shot stuff as Bail for season 1, and it got cut. And it now comes out, and I was very hesitant. I was like, I will wait and see, right? And this scene, the actor who plays Bail does it just like Jimmy, right? And this is what I say when I watch. So like when I watch Rings of Power with like Lord of the Rings fans that are more obsessed, that are just as obsessed as I am, I always say I can at least take my lore hat and my believability off my head. You know what I mean? And that's what I have to do with this situation. As much as it frustrates me, because it's like, I want continuity, you have to realize these actors are logistically, there's nothing you could do. They literally tried everything in their power to get Jimmy, and it just wasn't going to work.
And also like the reactions, he was there for 10 seconds.
And
We
the whole
haven't
reason-
seen anything from him yet. And people are acting as though like he is the crux to the entire series. Is Bale an important character? Of course he is.
Absolutely.
He's an important character in the rebellion. He's a important it's not his story.
It
He is
isn't.
here
I think
to
it was
be a vehicle in Mon's story.
And I think it was perfect. I honestly think it was perfectly done the way that they dropped like a little slice of him. Like,
Exactly.
I
It's
don't
like,
think
this
if that was the original
fair.
actor, like I don't think that scene, I don't think it would have showed up at that scene. Do you know what I mean? Like
No,
this was just so like, hey, just so you guys know, we
Yeah.
recast it. Let's talk about it this week so then you guys can get over it for the next.
absolutely.
Yes, because I think the fact that he's coming back, they wouldn't have used a random actor to deliver two
Right.
lines for Bail Organa. Like they're like, yeah, we can cut that if we can't get Jimmy. So I am more than anything, I'm just excited we're getting more Bail. Like
No,
Bail
yeah,
Organa
absolutely.
is going to be a part of this.
And the thing is like even with can we just touch upon the reaction of Mon to Bale and Perrin to Bale? And again, this is our 30-second rant of Mask of Fear. Read that fucking book because that interaction right there is so well done. Like,
Yes.
oh, you guys, is Brea up there? And he's like, no, we split up, bro. Like, we're smart. Like, we divide and conquer. And it's like, it's so well done. And I think I have full faith. I at this point, I am okay with this because it can, because we're eventually going to have to come to the realization that Mark Hamill is not going to be playing Luke Skywalker. Harrison
already
Ford,
isn't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Like he like these actors, as much as we want to put them in these young spots, and what our the person in the chat was saying earlier, let's use deepfake. I don't want that.
No.
It doesn't look
never,
good. We don't
never,
want
never.
AI in these stories. I think we should give other new people a breath of like to give a different perspective and a different performance of these characters.
If
because
it
they
were,
deserve it.
yeah, if it were just, we have to obviously assume that's not going to be, he's coming back. But if it were just,
No,
if it were just like a quick interaction between Mon and Perrin and Bale, I'd rather them just cut it. I'd rather them not even bother.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Like I don't need that. I don't need that fluff. Like it's, you get to do the Leonardo like sure, that can be fun, but like I don't need it.
Right.
I
I'm
would-
pretty sure I saw a production still of him in the Senate. So I
Yeah,
definitely think
so-
we're going to
so
see
he's
him.
gonna he's going to be very tied to getting Mon off Coruscant.
Yeah.
I 100%. She gives that speech and he says, "Oh fuck, we are doing all right, baby. We're doing this. We got DEFCON 5.
It's
we gotta
Yoda
make
part
sure that
2. He
she
knows
gets
the
out."
routes to get the hell out of town.
Yeah, no, exactly. He does. And this is going to be what strengthens that bond, right?
Yeah.
And it's so important because yes, but I understand where some of these fans are coming from. They would rather have seen Jimmy Smits, but
I
when
would have.
I
Yeah,
would have loved
yeah.
it too with the continuity. They got him for Obi-Wan. Like I get that. But when you cannot blame Lucasfilm for deciding to not wait. You can't wait for a person
Who's
to start
not
production.
a
The
main
Tony Gilroy
character.
exactly. Tony Gilroy already said that this was originally supposed to be five seasons. He nor Diego Luna wanted to do 5 or 10 years of their lives on this project.
Yeah.
What makes you
Yep.
think that they are going to even wait a year
Yeah.
and delay production
For
And if
Jimmy-
Disney,
for one person.
yeah,
Exactly.
if Disney cannot get somebody, then nobody can get. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like they have
Exactly.
like the most power, the most money. Like they will be able to get somebody. If they can, it doesn't happen. Like I think they did it. They did it well.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
so too.
And I'm excited to see where they take Bale's character because of how they have handled every other character in Andor so far. I'm so excited to see what they do with Bale and how they integrate him into this story. How, does he interact with Luthen? Does he interact with Saw? Does he interact,
Yes.
who is he going to interact with? What is his role going to be? And so like, I'm excited for that.
Me too.
But the one thing to kind of wrap this up, is obviously this is Andor, and I do want to talk about Cassian and Bix, and especially the final scene of this arc, because we've talked about like the little, them going on in the nuances. I do love the thing of like the dynamic of, Bix just wants to go on a walk in the park, and then Cassian is like overthinking the walk in the park, and it's just like, she's like, we live on a planet with like 5 trillion people. We can go on a walk in the park.
Take care of each other in that aspect.
And I do love that they're like starting to feel the tension with Luthen, and with Luthen dropping in on Bix, and kind of doing that. And I like that it creates tension between all 3 of them. I think that's like a great dynamic that, it's just like, how is this going to play out between the 3 of them? But the final scene.
Did anyone else
so
think
satisfying.
that was a dream? I honestly, when it
Alanis
first
did
started, I
say
100%
she
thought
it was.
that was a dream sequence, given what we've seen with Bix in this arc.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're meant to think that up until the point where she meets up with Cassian and they blow up that motherfucker.
My initial reaction, because it's either in episode 5 or in episode 6 where they talk about how Gorst's program will be expanding because of the results on Ferrix. And I was like, my first thought was like, okay, here comes the Gorst arc. Like, here's the start of that. And I'm like, oh man, this is going to get nasty. And then Bix shows up.
She
puts that fucking helmet on him.
You know what's
this
great?
Will only last a lifetime.
You know what's
delivered just like that was perfection.
You know what's so great about that scene is that they still didn't give us what the character is hearing, because and I think when films and TV shows let your imagination do
it's showing the monster in the horror film.
It's so much more effective.
Nothing is worse than your own imagination.
Exactly. And the way they pulled that off, and the way Bix was like, hey motherfucker, remember
Bix knows what it sounds like. We don't need to know what it sounds like. She knows what it sounds
all
like.
The way up to 11, and she girl bossed her fucking way out of there. And I was like, yes,
she shot that dude. The way she shoots it. But here, the thing that I loved was, Cassian joins her as they're walking away, and they have their good action moment. Don't look at the explosion as you walk away, and they blow it up. The fact that the last 1.5 seconds of this arc is Bix smiling.
Yes, because she hasn't smiled since even before season 1.
You get a little bit of it on Mina Rao. You get a little bit of it because she's with her people. She's with the people who make her comfortable.
Yes.
And again, that is taken away from her in more ways than one in the first arc. And in the second arc, she's feeling trapped. She's feeling like a prisoner. She loves Cassian, but Luthen keeps taking him away, and she's including her on stuff she doesn't want to be included in. And it's like she's feeling trapped. She's feeling all these horrible things. And it's just, she knows that she can't go back. She can't go back to Ferrix. She can't go back to Mina Rao. She's got to be here. And she's making the best of it that she can, and there's that very nice tender moment of he's like, oh, you cleaned up. And she's like, of course, she needs something to have some sense of normalcy. And I love the fact that, some people say catharsis doesn't do anything, and it's like fucking Bix Kayleen would say otherwise. And I love that moment for her. And I'm so excited to see where they take the character of Bix in a post-Gorst fashion. Yes. How does this change? Because the thing is that when I was watching the second arc, was Tay's dead. That's
he's
it.
Dead. He's done.
And there's no dialogue about oh, Mon, you really let yourself go last night. Yeah. And because everything is a year later, because we're not going to hear the phone call from Luthen, like, what do you mean you blew up an Imperial office? Like, we're not getting that phone call.
No.
This is what happened. You know, what we get next week on Tuesday is totally new. Like,
It's
there's
new, but there's underlining consequences. Like, Val is still gonna be on Gorman, I think, and this is all.
well, it's
all
not
of these
even
things are
that.
leading up
Is
to that.
it's the next time we see Vel is we're going to see her having had to process this for a year.
Well, and also think about this, because just to go briefly back to Senta's, when her and Senta are having that conversation, that accident, she's talking about Tay.
Yeah.
That's
think
my
so.
interpretation of, hey, I'll tell you later, because I think it's a little too close to home. And it changes you. And it changed Cinta, not only mentally, but also physically. She cut her hair. She made changes. And it's so fascinating how that can be subtly put in, and you can recognize that.
Yeah. And I think the way that they have structured this show, where your last episode, your third episode, like, that's it. That's what you get. Like, you don't get the
that's
follow
perfect.
up. You don't get the morning after. We're not gonna see, you know, them yelling at the Gormans and stuff like that. Like,
It
this
opens the possibilities of books, comics, of these
Yeah,
timelines
yeah.
to tell these stories.
Yeah.
And I think that's so well done. And I don't think they did that on purpose. I think it just happened
Sure.
because that's how it's structured. But it
Yeah, I
gives
mean, that's
you
how we
time
got
to
like the
tell these
fact
stories.
povs and stuff like that. And I think
Exactly.
I think it's really cool. I will say that obviously the show is designed around this, and these 3-episode arcs, the show is designed to tell the story this way. That being said, if Andor is a smash hit and it does numbers for Disney Plus and it wins awards, you know, like in the same way that Game of Thrones changed the landscape of television, and that Breaking Bad did it before that, and then you had The Sopranos, and then you have all these shows that really changed the landscape. And where we are today is because of all of these shows that have done so well. Like, the reason we get these 8 to 12 episode seasons is because, number one, the production value has gone through the roof on all these things, and that we can't just use the cardboard sets that were on The Next Generation and get 30 episodes per season that were an hour long each. That's no longer happening. It's not coming back. But what I do think is that in this streaming era, this is the perfect blend. Like, we kind of touched on very briefly in the beginning of, like, this is the way you get your week to week content, and you can have that binge effect. You're not like left in the dark of, like, had the Acolyte had this same airing schedule,
I think it would have had the same effect.
Changed so much for people's perception on that show.
I agree.
Like, that show I enjoyed, and we've talked about it so much that it has its problems 100%. But I think that had the ADHD TikTok brain people that are now consuming media, had they had the answers, like, had they been able to, like, watch an episode and be like, what the fuck are these witches up to? And then they find out that same day, and then they can go, wow, I wonder what happens next week. We would have had a wildly different conversation around the Acolyte. I think people would have still been shitty about so many different things. Like, you know, like, there were so many factors that play into that.
I think that if the Acolyte had been given the freedom that Tony Gilroy seemingly has been given, that would have helped as well. I think that has to be acknowledged, right? Like, he's been very clear that Lucasfilm basically went, here you go.
And I think that go ahead, Luke.
He worked very closely with Lucasfilm as well. He worked with Pablo Hidalgo. Like, he said, like, there were things that he probably wanted to do, and Pablo was like, I don't know if we can do that, but here's something that you can do. And I don't think I don't think they gave Leslie the same treatment, and
No,
that's
not at
very,
all.
very, 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 very true with that. And I think if they do the 3 episodes, that's how you do it. They say, hey, here's something that is new. Nobody else is doing it besides maybe Stranger Things doing half a season and then releasing the half a season later. I think this is the best form for streaming moving forward. I think this helps with, like we said at the beginning, the people that cannot stand week to week. Like they get that fill, they get that fix, and then it gives them wanting more, like the weekly releases. I think if Star Wars is able to capture this in a bottle, Ahsoka season 2 should be like that. I think things should start being like this, because if it's successful, why not use it?
Right. And the thing I'm going to say is I'm going to agree and disagree on 2 fronts. Like I agree with when we talk about like the Acolyte, like they should have given Leslie more control over her show and how it was edited and stuff like that. There's no denying that. But I also think we do have to understand that the reason we're seeing what we're seeing in season 2 of Andor and the way that he's doing this release schedule and the scenes they are doing, the reason they gave him the control was because he proved himself with season 1.
Agreed. But
and here's the thing with Leslie Headland. She didn't prove herself in the same way that Tony did. Is that even though that, like, I'm sure there are moments that Tony probably wanted to include into season 1 that he probably wasn't allowed to do, that he probably had ideas that Disney said, nope. Lucasfilm said, nope, you're going to have to go with these constraints. What he did with the story that stood up on his own and that season on its own had the merits it had, that no matter how much studio fuckery was going on, it was still a good story, on its own. And I think that is where the Acolyte struggled, is because it didn't have the same impact. And this is why something like Skeleton Crew coming right after that was,
I agree.
That show stands up on its own, and it's like it doesn't need a season 2. It would be awesome to see those kids again. I would love to see those kids and Jude Law back on Disney Plus. But if it doesn't happen, I'm okay with it. And I do think that with something like The Acolyte, it was like it needs a season 2,
right?
Because it doesn't. And again, I think everyone here agrees. Like there are multiple aspects about The Acolyte we really enjoyed, and that it was not a show that deserves an 18% on Rotten Tomatoes from fucking
absolutely
virgins on the internet. But where we are with season 2 of Andor, from a person who has like had positions at work where you can't just let you have to have the reins on some people before you feel comfortable letting those reins go.
Yeah.
I agree.
And I think that was how it was with Tony in season 1. And I know that there have been conversations that, they like interviews have been done with Kathleen and Tony and Pablo and Dave and everyone. It was like, the reason you're going to see the crazy stuff you're seeing in Andor season 2 is because of how well season 1 went.
Yeah.
That like, I don't blame any production company for saying like season 1, you need to show us that your idea is worth exploring further. Right. And but to the point of like the release schedule, I really hope this show wins awards, not because I love Andor. I think that if this show wins awards, this show is a runaway success.
Yeah.
The positives of Andor, the fact that we could see this with something like Rings of Power in an arc delivered thing,
and that's where it needs to happen.
the new stuff with Game of Thrones. Like imagine something like Severance that follows a similar release schedule, and then you have, when you look at something like Chernobyl, like the miniseries on HBO, like yes, that's a 5-6 episode miniseries, but like imagine if they said we want to have that same production quality and we want people like Stellan Skarsgård who just knock it out of the park no matter whenever they open their mouths on screen, it's just like gold. Like having shows that can follow these rubrics and accommodate more people, because I don't blame any like studios that are like, look, we've been working on television for the past 50 years and now we have to follow streaming guidelines and people have different expectations and attention spans. And like, I guarantee you the reason they cut something like The Acolyte to 8 episodes, or the reason they cut Marvel shows to 8 episodes isn't because they hate the producers, because they have all the data in the world that says, yeah, people stop watching shows after 8 episodes, guys. Like, that's why they're cutting these things, is because it's the thing that no one wants to put the blame on themselves, but like people don't go see original movies. It's just a fact. People don't finish TV shows when the shows are too long. It's a fact. And people are just like, yeah, why would we spend millions of dollars on 7 episodes no one's going to watch?
Yeah, I think this could be lightning in a bottle too, for just because the story is so good and the format is so good that, like you said earlier, like this could be huge for streaming, because I've really enjoyed it too, even though I'm up till midnight on Tuesday night. But
it's no different. It's no different than staying up till 3 a.m. On
oh my god, yeah,
watching one episode. Like, you still get that lightning in a bottle. And not to kind of talk about, but Chase, you made a great point. Rings of Power needs this, in my opinion.
Season 2 followed this. Obviously, it's not like year to year to year, but like every 2 to 3 episodes was its own contained little arc. You like, and it's like, yeah, show the arc, and then let me know what's gonna, and let me anticipate what's gonna happen next.
Exactly.
And yeah, like I think you're right, Connor. I think that there's an equal chance that this is lightning in a bottle, and there's always a chance people like, this is how you make a show. And then people who don't write shows according to like release is like, it's like, oh, this release schedule doesn't work for this show.
Yeah. That's my worry. Like what I want streamers to take away from this, and they won't, because they always take away the wrong lessons from successful TV shows, is that different delivery formats will interest people, because this is a different delivery format from even season 1.
Yes.
But
absolutely.
You've managed to maintain, and even I would expect, grow your audience in this season because you're trying something different. So don't replicate it. Try something different.
And the thing is, this is the thing, is that like we can sing the praises all day long of Andor, but there's a reason the TIE Avenger scene is the first thing you see in Andor. It's because the number one complaint of season 1 was the first 3 episodes were slow.
Yep.
Yes.
The 100% the reason they started with the TIE Avenger was because the number one complaint was that show was too slow to start, and like, all right, motherfuckers.
Yeah.
They just wanted to give you
we're going to do a canyon chase.
Yeah.
They just wanted to give you Signer. That was
I had a conversation with Kathleen Kennedy. And, I was like,
she said,
you got 3 choices. You got Incom, Kuat, or Sayonara. If I don't see those in the first 30 minutes of Andor season 1, Lucasfilm is burning to the ground.
It's not even that. It's the I want ship. Give me ship. You're not giving me You're not giving me Rogue Squadron. I want something. Which ended up being Starfighter.
Yes. Like look, we can joke all day, but like, in the same way that people took the first line of The Force Awakens, like, this begin to make everything right, of like, oh, this is to correct for the prequels that everyone hated and now everyone loves, blah blah blah. The TIE Avenger scene, when that sequence ended, I was like, this was a direct response to how people reacted to the opening of Andor season 1.
Absolutely,
100% a direct response of like, we have like. I guarantee, like, you want to talk about studio meddling? I guarantee you there was a meeting between Tony and Kathleen and John and Dave of like, this show has to start with a boom. Like, there's no negotiating this. The opening scene has to be full of action in this season. I guarantee you that was a meeting.
Are Dave and John EPs on this? I thought they were completely removed.
They're creative. They're like,
well, I know Dave is. I know Dave is. I don't think John is.
The way I understand it works, and I could be totally wrong on this, is that upper echelon, the like Dave, John, Kathleen, and Pablo are involved in every project in some capacity. Like they are involved in the meetings, they are involved with the story group and stuff like that. Like they have some type of communication with the creators of it. And that, again, that can be in a boardroom meeting, that could be on set. I'm sure that fluctuates based on their desired position within these productions, but they all touch every single project.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean, with Dave's role, there's no way that he wasn't involved in at least some level. He doesn't have an EP credit on the series, but there's no way that they have a conversation, especially if Pablo's in the room, that he's not at least aware of what's being discussed.
I would say Dave more than John.
I would agree with that.
Yeah,
I would say Dave because Dave is literally the creative executive. He is behind.
he's like his title is CCO, like Chief Creative Officer.
Yeah, Chief Creative Officer. He's
my close personal
meetings.
friend. That's who he is. He's my close personal friend.
Yeah. He is your close personal friend. But anyway.
But no, like this. We can get into the nitty gritty, and like I was talking about with like the Gorman architecture and like the technology they're using. Like, for me to complain about this show, I have to really dig deep and find something that I'm just like, I like when I take a step back and I'm like, my complaint is I wish they didn't sound as fucking French. Like, we're in a great spot.
No, yeah, absolutely.
Like this is, and it's like this has been a treat, and I'm like, I guess I'll go around. Like, what do we think the third arc is going to be?
Gorman Massacre. Yes. I think it's this, and it's gonna be Mon's.
It's Mon's speech.
I think we get to Mon's speech. I think Gorman Massacre happens either the first or second episode.
First episode,
which would make sense because then you get Cassian back on Coruscant because we know that Mon and Cassian are together.
Yes, I think episode 7 is the massacre. Episode 8 ends with Mon's speech. Episode 9 is getting Mon the hell out of Dodge.
Off. Yeah, and I think the second episode is going to be more obviously centered on Mon, and that's where we're going to see mostly Bail.
Yeah.
That's where we're going to see Bail literally looking at Mon and saying, "All right, Bessie, it's time. Let's go all in." Because we've been tiptoeing around this. I've made Tarkin think that I was having an affair with you at one time, and Brea was in it. Like like these are the extremes that these characters will go to keep the rebellion the as secret as possible. And now she says the loud thing out loud, and here we go.
Yeah, and I think one of the cool things that we'll see next arc is the juxtaposition between the chaos going on Gorman and then like the Senate and like everybody. Yes. It's kind of the same thing that's been going on, but I think that will be like tenfold when we'll see the chaos. Yeah, exactly. So I'm excited to see more Bail. Honestly, I love Bail as a character.
Yeah, I want to see more Bail. I am going to throw a wrench in this because I think Mon leaving is the finale. But because I feel like we're trying to throw everything happening into
that can't happen, Chase. Because it's a year. It doesn't line up timeline. It has to happen this arc.
If it's it's BBY.
Because in Rebels season 3, that's 2 BBY. And that's when that arc. That's when that episode happens. And again, Pablo is probably going to be like, "All right, we can do this, but you have to make the continuity." Makes sense.
So what do we think the finale is going to happen? What is going to happen in the finale?
It's going to be him. It's going to be literally. It's going to be more Tarkin and Deidre centric. I think it's going to be him getting to the point where he. Obviously, we know it leads up to Rogue One.
It's going to end on Kafrene.
Well, we know this is like, to me, the last arc is going to be clearing the table. Because things we haven't seen yet, and we've seen it in the trailer, for example, is Clea saying it's called the Death Star. I think that Clea informs the spy that we see at the start of Rogue One. Because how else, where else do they learn that name? Like, that is going to be the massacre, cast massacre arc.
Yeah, I think he gets introduced in episode, I guess it would be 10. I think the guy that Cassian shoots, I think they're gonna make him like a character with like a story.
Which makes me think that Luthen is still alive. I have a sneaking suspicion because you have these spies everywhere. He is the best damn one that we've seen in the rebellion at this point.
Could be
But is
Clea that takes over.
I was just gonna say, is that him or is that Clea?
And that would be so ironic.
Does Clea become Axis? Here, okay, I'm gonna throw this into you. Is Clea the Imperial Axis and then becomes Fulcrum?
Ooh.
Because she is always on the radio. She is the queen of the comms. Will she become Fulcrum?
I think. Well, no, because Fulcrum was
Ahsoka and then is Callus, but
Fulcrum. I don't understand why I don't just ask Alanis to come in here, but I don't think she wants to be on camera.
He's not going to be Fulcrum forever, and that's why because she's comms.
That makes sense. That could make sense.
Be because she's so in tune with all of the communications with that.
Well, that's how you get Callus. Him handing off Fulcrum to Clea. Oh wow, she's probably gonna hate that idea, but like if that gets Callus.
But again, does that mean? I guess we could debate timelines whatsoever, but I don't know if that works timeline wise.
That's what I'm thinking. That's my only thing.
But either which way, I think the one thing that I think is coming that we can all agree on is a whole shitload of pain.
Yeah.
Yes. I think and I hope that they are going to adhere to like one death per arc. Like,
so
because I think
arc?
it won't
Zero.
be Vel. It won't be Vel next arc. It can't be Vel.
It'll be Zero. Either
could be
Zero or Dedra.
Or
Because
both.
We remember.
I'm gonna stick to Dedra's gonna die on the Death Star.
That feels appropriate to me.
Yeah.
I think so too.
I'm gonna vote Cyril or Luthen in the next arc.
Because it would be cool to see like Clea have an arc where it's her.
Or Lonnie.
I was thinking about Lonnie as well. He seems like
here's the other thing. Well, here's the other thing though. We see in the trailer that Dedra is in the museum. Not the museum, but she's at Luthen's shop. We see that in the trailer. So how does she get there? There's so many things that are so left up.
What is the percentage that a year from the Gorman heist somehow Perrin ends up on Gorman?
Wait, do we know if he's dead or not?
We don't.
Could that
what if Perrin goes to Gorman? Perrin dies on Gorman.
And that's the motivator.
And that's why Mon gives her speech.
Either one.
Wow.
Either Vel or oh my God, Chase Perrin.
I don't think it's going to be Vel. I think it's going to be Perrin the motivator.
I think you're onto something.
Time.
Don't forget, Cal Kestis was also going to show up in Skeleton Crew, so don't get your hopes up.
But I mean, it makes sense because, like, we know that their marriage has become more, not necessarily transactional, but more perfunctory. But that speech that he gives during the wedding, you can see that she still loves him.
They don't hate each other.
Yeah.
Oh, they don't.
They don't hate each other. That's 100% for sure. They don't hate each other.
And I think that Mon, that would definitely be.
I could almost see if they were to double whammy it, if it were Cyril and Perrin that die on Gorman, and we see the reaction from Dedra. We see a parallel reaction between Dedra and Mon, and we go back and forth and see how both of them react to it.
Which would make sense, Chase, because we see Dedra having that breakdown.
Yeah, because we haven't seen that yet.
We haven't seen that yet. Yeah.
with her.
I don't think it's Vader or Palpatine. I don't think it's
No.
Force choke. I think it's a
No,
panic
it's
attack.
Yeah. It's definitely
Panic
a panic
attack.
attack.
Because she wouldn't know how to process that. Like she doesn't know how to process her feelings for Cyril. And I don't think she would know how to process grief. She was like, death for her has always been just a fact on a spreadsheet, and she's never had to feel grief before. So I think you guys are right on Cyril, but I do think it might be Cyril and Perrin that both die on Gorman. And we see that reaction from both angles.
Wow.
Oh.
I didn't even think about that. That's diabolical.
I was worried for this arc already.
All right, let me throw just to make this even worse for you guys. What if the scene of Mon crying at the podium and the scene of Dedra is like
juxtaposed? Yeah, I was just thinking, like what a way to show.
She like Mon finds out that Perrin's dead on the Senate floor.
Because I mean, what a juxtaposition too of Dedra, who's always been shown to be this like tough as nails girl boss, nothing phases her, crack and just crumble. We're at the same time over someone that she may or may not love or doesn't understand what it is she feels towards them, versus Mon, who has always been this feeling emotive person, suddenly steeling herself to go, you know what? Fuck it. I'm done with the mask. You guys are going to hear what I want to say.
That would be beautiful.
I think you just cracked the code.
We'll see. I'm almost always wrong. So
I would have loved Cal Kestis and Skeleton.
That'll be the thumbnail on next week's episode. It'll just be Chase's smiling face. He was right.
Yeah. It'll be the same type of reaction to me getting Plagueis.
Oh God.
But yeah, we will see on Tuesday how this goes. But no, Nick and Connor, thank you so much for being here. I feel like we were trying to wrap it up for a while, and there's just so much to this show that there are aspects of this arc we haven't even touched. And it's so cool to like talk to both of you about this, because like your insights are great and it's fun to theorize with you guys. But so thank you guys for being here. But let's just kind of close it out with Connor. Where can we find you all over the internet? What are you working on? What's going on?
Yeah, so find me on TikTok at Jedi.Connor. As well as on YouTube. I post my podcast episodes on there. I have one with I just recorded one with Lord Dagavir and my friend Johnny from back home. So starting that back up, and then hopefully streaming some Fortnite here in the next couple of weeks. Get some Star Wars.
Who's watching the first two episodes? That Brooke B. Dazzler is going to be in town for Alanis's bridal shower tomorrow. So I've already got the PlayStation out in the living room. We'll figure out how to do it. We'll watch it all together in the stupid little lobby. It's fine. It'll be great.
Thank you, Connor. And Nick, where can we find you? What are you working on? What's going on?
You can find me on TikTok and Blue Sky at NDWiseGuy. I am definitely talking about Andor. I'm also trying to emotionally prepare myself, as Luke knows, for the end of the High Republic, which is coming in just over a month and a bit, which is crazy to say.
Wait, when does that book come out?
June 19th is when Trials comes out.
No way.
Ooh. Yes.
The day before my wedding?
Or June 17th. Sorry, June 17th. It's the Tuesday.
That
June
week?
17th.
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
You know, so the next book, Valiant Val, comes out next week. Not next week, week after next, which is the second to last book. As Luke knows, I'm still reeling from Claudia Gray's book that just came out last month. I know, right? Yeah, that's what I've got going on.
Amazing. And Luke, where can we find you all over the internet?
You can find me at Jedi Master Eggs, and you can find me here on the Pod Ones. You can follow us on those social medias as well. Yeah, there's wedding stuff and life, and obviously getting the chance to watch Andor and talk about it with all of this amazing community. Obviously, May the 4th is is Sunday, so obviously we're not gonna have a stream, but May the 4th be with you all, and
Tales of the Underworld.
Tales of the Underworld will be out. But yeah, I again, not to get sappy, but it's so fucking stupid that a stupid little show, a stupid little movie franchise brought me all of the joy in the world. Just
100%.
crazy.
Yeah.
Like it's crazy to think that like I've met everyone here like in person, like on like different occasions, and it's like it's wild because it's like I remember distinctly like hopping on Darth Chaco's High Ground podcast and just being like, who are these people? And you know, they're all on TikTok, and then it's been so cool to meet everyone in person and like be like, yeah, like waiting in line for like 3 hours for Hyperspace Mountains with Connor.
Oh geez, yeah.
Wild ride. But no, you're right, Luke. It is you know, sappy, but it's so cool that like just stuff like this like brought us all together and we all became friends, and now we get to talk about Andor and stuff. But yeah. Thank you guys. You can find me on TikTok and on various streaming platforms with podcasts with AJ at the Dork Place on Wednesday mornings, Thursday nights here, and then I'll also be working with David Xanatos 1138 on Saturdays to talk more about Andor. I've usually been keeping notes to get really nitty gritty about some of the stuff with Andor, but thanks for everyone in the chat for hanging out, and that'll do it for us tonight. We'll see you next.